Characters. The lifeblood of every anime is in its characters, and for me, I can't really get invested in any show if the characters are boring and bland. And I have a few hot takes on some shows where I don't really care for the characters, and then I have some other shows where I really do like the characters despite the mediocre story. In this video, I kind of want to talk about some of my favorite characters, and just to really vent on why they are my favorite characters. This video is going to be a little different from what I normally do, so if you do enjoy this kind of format, then please let me know in the comments and I'll try to make more videos like it. So, character number 1. Lelouch Lamperouge from Code Geass. Now, there's a lot that can't really be said about this guy that hasn't already been said, so what I'm going to do is just rewind back time to how I originally came to love this character so much, and I remember it very vividly. I was in high school at the time, and I was sick and couldn't go to school, so I was home for a few days, and like most people do, you pull up YouTube and you look up best anime of all time, and then you see a video that's like the top 10 anime, and then you watch, and I saw this anime I never heard of before called Code Geass, and it was being compared to things like Death Note and all this stuff, and I was like, huh, this looks rather interesting. I think I'm gonna check it out. And I did. Binged the whole thing in like 2 days, and it was definitely 2 of the best days of my life. As you know, when I was younger, I was binging anime left and right, and there was a point where you were just knocking down all the top great shows, and Code Geass was one of them, and I had just made it to it, and that's when I found my love for the character of Lelouch. Now, I always kind of hated the comparison of Lelouch to Light Yagami. I think they're a little too different to be compared that much. Lelouch, to me, is a much more sympathetic character than Light is. Like, I spent the whole time of Death Note not liking this guy, so I really hated Light Yagami in Death Note. I mean, it was enjoyable to see him get away with things, but he wasn't likable. A show I would compare it to is something like Dexter, where Dexter basically is Light Yagami, but you like him. He's cool. He's a serial killer, but there's not a single step of the way where you're like, it's just Dexter. Like, who cares if he just killed all these people? It's just Dexter, you know? So I don't really have an issue with that, right? What makes Lelouch so great is that his struggle is something that really anyone can sympathize with. Even though he comes from this royal family, he still struggles every step of the way to get what he wants. It's his pride and ambition that often end up being his own downfall. I mean, a lot of times you forget that Lelouch is still a kid, man, and the things that he manages to accomplish are amazing feats. Every single time he gets a victory, it's triumphant, and every single time he fails, it's devastating. A lot of people like to sum up Lelouch as this very smart and calculated protagonist, and that's the reason why people love him, but to me it was always more than that. There are plenty of protagonists that are just smart and calculated, and to me the ending of the series is really what solidified that. Lelouch isn't just in it for himself, he's this guy that was truly about the cause, and everything that he believed in, he lived and died by it. And that is why Lelouch is one of my favorite characters in all of anime. Now, since we're on the topic of Code Geass anyway, let me talk about the second character sitting right beside him, and that is none other than C2 or CC, or however you want to pronounce her name, also from Code Geass. Now, why exactly is she on here? I know a lot of people don't really talk about her that much when they bring up Code Geass. It's usually, you know, Lelouch or Suzaku, and I love everyone in Code Geass. Let's not get it twisted. Honestly, the top 3 characters for me personally would be Lelouch, CC, and Colin. Those 3, I think, are peak characters from that series. However, why is C2 here? Well, I think C2 is here just because of the waifu aspect. I'm not gonna lie, C2 is one of the most sexy looking anime characters out there, and if you disagree, hey man, I don't know what's going on in your head, but like, I mean, green hair, first off, we don't see that very often in anime. So already immediately I'm interested, you know, I'm like, okay, who is this lady? What's up with this green hair you got going on here, right? And a big complaint that people have about Code Geass is its art style and how lanky the characters look. Well, let me tell you, C2 is like the only character, and maybe Colin as well, where their lanky bodies actually do more for them than the others. Like, I mean, I would not draw her any other way. This is exactly peak waifu material right here. So I hear you. You're probably just saying, oh, you just think she's hot. Is that really it? Just because she's hot, she's on the list? Well, there's a bit more to it. You know, C2, what I really like about her is she is very loyal to Lelouch in a way that's very admirable and respectful. When she makes the contract with him, it's not like in other shows where a character will make a contract with someone and there's always this nefarious monkey's paw aspect to it, right? She definitely does have her own motives, but she's constantly there with him to the very end. I mean, she's consoling him and giving him like motivation and support to make sure that he's able to do the things that need to be done. And she understands how hard it is for him and the toll that is being taken on him. Granted, their relationship is a bit odd. It takes a while and changes forms throughout the series, but by the end, I totally buy it. And I really like the dynamic between the two. It's not necessarily, you know, they're in love in a way. It's just these two tragic beings that have this one thing in common and it brings them together. And something about that is very unique, and I haven't quite seen it in any other anime, and it really makes me like this character a lot more because she's just very different in her own way. Plus, also, she really likes pizza, and there's this one episode where, you know, she's trying to see this, like, giant pizza that they're making for this festival thing, and it's just cute and adorable where she shows up and she has her plate, and then, oh, the pizza's gone. Okay. And then I was just sitting there, like, in my chair, like, oh no, why? So yeah, that's why C2 is on the list. Character number 3, Rimuru Tempest from That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Now, this series is one that was not on my radar when it first came out. I didn't know anything about it, and just one day I was like, I'm just gonna watch an isekai. I just feel like watching one, and I just clicked on it because the character designs looked really cool and interesting, and holy smokes, this show snuck up on me. I love this show to death. This is a prime example of a show that is carried by its characters, and I can't understate that enough. I love damn near everyone in this show, and that is so hard to do with a show that has this many characters. It's insane. And Rimuru is just the perfect main character. Like, I'm not even joking. This slime, yes, this slime is just amazing. What makes Rimuru so great is that he's just the most positive person that you could ever meet in existence. And it's something that doesn't ever come across as unbelievable or annoying. You genuinely believe it every step of the way. And all he ever wants to do is just be very diplomatic and make friends. And that's the whole show. It's the one show where every bad guy or main villain character can be redeemed. And I totally am okay with it. It's so weird. Normally that is a big pet peeve of mine, but in this series, every single time it happens, I'm just like, welcome aboard, come on, let's go, let's do this, you know? It's such an upbeat show, and I just don't see how anyone could watch it and not have fun. So yeah, that is why Rimuru Tempest is on this list. He's just one of those characters that you just want to have a drink with and be pals, you know? So what more is there to say? The next character on the list is Askeladd from Vinland Saga. Now, we already know how great this guy is, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about him, but Askeladd is on this list because he is a character that is so hard to depict in any medium. I mean, this is a guy that does the most terrible and heinous acts to people on the daily, and this is just his existence. Even so, you sympathize with him heavily. It's something that I can't help but marvel at because it really does sneak up on you. I mean, Askeladd is 100% presented as an antagonistic character in the beginning of the series, and there's not a single moment where you would expect him to be someone that you would root for or get behind in any kind of way. Askeladd is one of the few characters whose presence demands respect. It's the way that he carries himself, the way he doesn't downplay others. It's something that is just really admirable. And for that reason, he is on the list. Okay, the next character, Eren Yeager. Now, this is a bit of a dodgy subject for some people, but I love the character of Eren Yeager and even the characterization of him in Attack on Titan's ending. Sorry, I like Eren. Okay, I'll stop. I have Eren here mainly because the writing of him is very inspirational to me as someone that wants to get into writing. It's kind of hard to explain, but once you get into writing, you start to look at characters in any series or any medium that you watch completely different. I have such a high level of respect for Isayama in the way he writes his characters, and it inspires me to do things the same way, or at least in a similar way. It's the simple fact that Eren is a character that goes through so much change, but at the same time, doesn't change. It's so complex and hard to deconstruct, but it's there. And every time I look back at it, I'm just like, how did he do this? Like, it's just crazy to me. For that reason, Eren has got to be on my list. This next character I can't wait to talk about. It is none other than Holo, the wise wolf from Spice and Wolf. Now, you might be looking at this and being like, what is this furry crap on my screen right now? Listen, okay? Listen, all right? Holo is the original waifu for me, okay? I remember watching Spice and Wolf way back when, not when it first came out. I was still in high school. This is around the time where I was really just getting into anime, and listen, I don't know what's up with me. I just like characters that are wolves. I did a video on Balto and why that was such an instrumental movie to me growing up, and if you want to watch that, it's unlisted. I'll probably link it down below. But I just like characters that are wolves. I don't know why. I just like wolves. Maybe it's my spirit animal or something. I don't know what's going on here, but Holo is such a great character, and I'm going to get down into the nitty-gritty of why I like Spice and Wolf, okay? Because people have a hard time explaining why this show is so good. And honestly, even I have a hard time explaining why it's so good. And I might make a video that just is literally focused on Spice and Wolf soon. I don't know. But Spice and Wolf is a simple story about a guy named Kraft Lawrence who stumbles upon this wolf girl named Holo. And essentially they just travel together and do merchant stuff. Now, I know on paper that does sound boring as hell. Listen, okay? Listen, hear me out. The show is basically about economics. Yes. You heard me right, economics. Now listen, before you go and say, oh, I don't like economics, hold on, okay? I didn't like economics in school. I hated it, okay? And yet I love this show to death because it's the characters. As I've been, stating over and over again in this video, if the characters are amazing, I don't care what they're doing. It's enjoyable to me. And that's kind of where I am with this show. A lot of the economic aspects of it are interesting. They're definitely well, put together and thought out. And on top of that, the world itself is really interesting. I mean, just look at this imagery. I mean, everything about it is just fascinating and you just want to learn more and more about it. And for those of you who don't know, there's actually a remake coming out, so if you want to try the show out and you don't really like the old art style, hey, I'm just saying, keep it on your radar. Spice and Wolf is that anime, okay? It is that anime. Looks can be deceiving, and you should definitely check it out. But why is Holo specifically on here? I could have thrown Kraft Lawrence on here, but no, I like Holo because she is the original waifu. She is the original character that I fell in love with, and I was like, oh my goodness, I love this character. For one, the dub voice actress kills it, amazing. And secondly, I just love her character and her relationship with Kraft Lawrence. Them bickering with one another, and literally the whole show is just them talking shit to one another, and it's just so enjoyable. I love it. They're dynamic, it's cute, it's awesome, it makes you feel good, okay? It makes you feel the feels, and Holo is just unmatched, okay? I don't want to hear your trash takes in the comments, all right? Holo is the GOAT. Or, well, she's a wolf, but you get what I'm saying.
You don't have to be so stubborn.
I am not being stubborn.
You sure about that?
Yes, I am sure.
Are you sure that you're sure?
I am sure that I am sure.
Because you don't sound very sure to me.
Just you watch and you will find how sure I am. Honestly, I sure am tired of them.
The next character I have on the list is Nanachi from Made in Abyss. Now, if you haven't seen Made in Abyss, you might want to skip this part of the video because the language I'll be using is very suggestive and it might low-key spoil you on certain aspects of the show, so please go to this timestamp here so that way you don't get spoiled. But the reason why I have Nanachi on this list is because she is a character that deserves the world and more, and I'm just so upset that I can't offer that to her. Okay, this is one of those characters that I just want to protect. I don't want anyone to mess with her. She is a character that needs to be protected, and I will go to bat for this girl no matter what, alright? Essentially, this little furball creature thing made me shed man tears unlike any other character in any other anime, and man, what a show. I can't right now, bro. I can't. Anyway, Next character, also a tearjerker, is going to be Tomoyo Sakagami from Clannad and Clannad After Story. Now, you might be asking yourself, Tomoyo? Why Tomoyo? Well, let me explain it, okay? So, Clannad is one of those shows that is based off a visual novel, and if you ever played a visual novel, typically they have different routes with different girls, and you choose your route, and you end up with the girl that you like. And animes don't typically do the routes, they just kind of stick to one character and then that's your end game, right? And Clannad does do this. I mean, the main girl is Nagisa, and you know, that's how the story ends, is with him ending up with Nagisa. However, what I love and appreciate so much about Clannad is that they have these OVA episodes that are essentially like what if scenarios. You get a whole episode dedicated to Tomoya ending up with Tomoyo, and it is by far, in my opinion, the best episode in the whole series because I get what I wanted, and that is something that I wish all of these harem shows would do, because a lot of times if you have a character that's not the fan favorite, you're just going to be blueballed by the end and you're not going to get anything for your character, and this was just so satisfying for me. My reaction to it was even amplified because when I was watching the series, I had no idea there were any OVA episodes that did stuff like this, so after I finished the series and I saw these 2 episodes, I was like, oh cool, I'll watch these, and then next thing you know, I'm getting everything I wanted in 22 minutes, and I'm just floored by the end. I mean, Clannad specifically is a great series to do this with because every girl for the most part gets a lot of development, so it really makes sense that most people would be in completely different camps from others. I mean, everyone is likable to some extent, but you're gonna have a favorite, and to me, Tomoyo was that girl. She would be the one that I would have picked if I was Tomoya. And another compliment that I have to give is that they don't give you this half-ass thrown together plot. It's a dense plot that literally is something that could have been a whole series in itself in 22 minutes. I mean, it just made me, if anything, it made me kind of upset because I was like, man, I want this show right here, because their relationship in that 22 minutes is fully fleshed out in ways that I'm like, wow, like they really did me justice. Like I truly got what I wanted, and this is a big deterrent for me with harem shows. I don't really like watching them because you don't get any satisfaction if you don't like the main girl, so I tend to tune out of those. So I have to give massive props to Clannad and Clannad After Story for even doing something like this, and I hope more shows try and do this in the future. Tomoyo, I love you. That's all I have to say. I love you. All right, we're almost done. The next character on the list is Gugu from To Your Eternity. Now, this is another recent addition. If you didn't watch To Your Eternity last year, I really suggest going back and checking that out. That show is a real big standout one for me last year, and it definitely deserved a lot more praise. Now, you might be asking yourself, okay, well, why Gugu and not Fushi? Well, these names sound ridiculous when I say them out loud. Anyway, the reason why I picked Gugu over Fushi is because Fushi, in terms of character, is like developing as the series goes on. Like, it's a character that has no character, and by the end they become a character, and their characteristics are formed by the people that they've met along the way and their influence on them as a person. And Gugu by far is the biggest influence out of all the characters into Your Eternity, and what he serves Fushi as a character is just irreplaceable. I know that was a mouthful, but basically what I'm saying is that Gugu is a character that makes Fushi who he is, and there's no way that you could, you know, appreciate Fushi as a character without even giving any hint of respect to Gugu, okay? Gugu is also a character that when watching the show, when I first saw this character, I was like, look at this goofy little this goofy little dude. Like, there's no way I'm gonna fall in love with this guy, you know? This goofy guy. And then next thing you know, tragedy strikes, and I'm like, oh man. And on the surface, I mean, this is something you've come to expect with the show. I mean, tragedy is nothing new into Your Eternity, but it's what he does with the situation given to him. The fact that something so horrible could happen to someone and yet they could still find a way to raise their spirits and rise above it all is just really inspiring to me. And his character is just one that I just couldn't help but root for. Very similar to Nanachi in Made in Abyss, he's a character that is just in a really terrible place, and he deserves so much better. His character is one that will forever stick with me, and for that reason, I had to put him on the list. Okay, so the final character that's on this list. Also, I need to know, this isn't in any like particular order. This is just the order that I had him on Mal, so don't think that this is like the best character of all time or anything like that. But the final character I have is Legoshi from Beastars. Now, again, I love wolves, man. I don't know what's going on here, but Legoshi is a character that not only do I really enjoy, but he's kind of a character that I really like empathize with in a weird way. And I'm not saying like I'm just some stocky wolf or anything like that. No, I'm just saying like his experience and what he goes through in the series is something that I can kind of relate to in a weird way. So let me put this into perspective. In Beastars, Legoshi, he's this, big, stocky wolf, and he falls in love with this rabbit, which is something that's very taboo and not normal in society. And it's something that he's, initially looked down upon for, and it's something that is definitely not the norm. And he goes through this, mental battle in his head where he feels like there's something wrong with him or that he's the problem. And a lot of this gives him really heavy anxiety. And in the beginning of the series, he's this very coy and shy wolf, which is very contrasting to his appearance. But by the end of the series, he's much more confident, betters himself, and he does what he wants to do and acts on impulse rather than overthinking every little thing and aspect of his life. And that's something that kind of reminded me a bit of myself in a lot of ways. This is kind of crazy because I kind of went through a similar discussion in my Balto video when I was talking about, Balto being half wolf, half dog, but he doesn't quite know where he belongs and stuff like that. It's a very similar dynamic here, which I think is a big reason why I also like Legoshi so much, is it reminds me of myself and how I was perceived and how I perceived myself growing up. There was a lot of, situations where I would be around people and I didn't feel like I fit in despite, looking like those around me or being like those around me. I didn't feel like I belonged with those around me. And that's something, and not to get too deep here, but that's a big, parallel that I saw in the character, and seeing where he goes later in the story was really inspiring to me because I'm like, dang, I want to be like Legoshi. I want to, have this big change and start being this super confident person. And I just thought that was really cool in him. So that's kind of why I put him on this list. I mean, Legoshi is just, he's me. Like, I don't know what to say. He's me. But yeah, that is the video. This is a very long video, also a very passionate one. So I had a lot of fun making it. Hopefully you guys had a lot of fun watching it. And I want you all to put your top favorite characters in the comments. I would love to hear, your favorite characters, and please put, like a little description of why that character means so much to you, because at the end of the day, I watch these shows for characters like this. This is the stuff that really keeps me into anime. It's not always about the story. Sometimes the characters just hit a very heavy spot for you and it really changes your life in some way. And I hope this video kind of showcases that, and that maybe you learned something from it about me through the video. So who knows? But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed this video. I will see you all in the next one.
You left your mark. Yeah, you were here. You left your scar and disappeared. I feel